Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to my last presentation for this class. This has been a pretty awesome class. I've learned a lot, and I've learned quite a bit through my own work, and I've learned a really lot from everybody else. So my last presentation will be on the BBB and Black and Kali Linux round 2. So I'm expanding on my topic from cycle 12. Not quite as much as I wanted. I don't have a really cool demonstration this cycle because things just didn't work out quite as easily or as quickly as I had hoped. But I have a pretty good idea, and really what I want to do for this topic, or for this cycle, is kind of lay out my idea, lay out my plan on how to make this work, and ask for your input at the end to see what am I missing. Pen testing as a whole is kind of new to me, and so I'd like to see what you guys who seem to have experience in this area think of this plan and if it could work. Basically, if you're brave enough to walk in and plug something into somebody's computer. So my initial vision from cycle 12 was to use the BBB and Black as both a human input device keyboard and a USB drive by making the BBB and Black a USB hub. In my mind, that's just where I went. Make this a hub. It will allow you to type, store things, and everything will be a big happy family. Turns out making a USB hub is not as easy as making a human input device like a USB drive or a keyboard. And so I started looking at it and I was like, man, this will be really easy. Then it turned out it wasn't, and I actually reached out to Dr. Polster and said, hey, what are your thoughts on this, on making a USB hub? And his exact words were, that's actually a lot more difficult than it sounds. And he followed up with, but why do you want to do that? And so I thought about it and I realized that making the hub and adding the storage didn't really gain me a whole lot that I can't do if I have a keyboard that's working on the machine. So I have a new plan, right? If making that hub is too difficult, then more work on the scripting side will do pretty much the same thing, I think, with less points of overall failure. Just because maybe less points of failure for me, since that USB interface is a little murky in how it works based on my knowledge. So that's where the less points of failure is. There's not less points of total failure, but less points on the USB side that I don't really know how to handle. So my new attack strategy going forward will be to, again, start the attack from the BeagleBone via button press. Last time I used SSH, and that's just not feasible for a real world scenario. So via button press, once you plug it in, press a button, and that will kick off the script to basically enact the keyboard. And then the first thing I want to do is change that BeagleBone's IP address. So when you first plug it in, it assigns itself its own IP address. It's like a 192.168, like 7.2 or something like that. I want to change that to the subnet of the victim machine. So I'm going to have the BeagleBone run its own script to check the victim's IP and then change its IP to match that subnet. Excuse me. So BeagleBone and Black will talk to the attached machine over IP using the USB cable that you're already plugged into. So this will allow us to send files back and forth from the BeagleBone and Black from the victim machine to the BeagleBone and Black, utilizing the local storage on the BeagleBone, which can be, it's a micro SD card, so expandable up to X number of gigabytes. So that's going to be the second step. Then the third step will be to open a reverse shell on that victim machine that will connect to the attacker's home machine. So we're kind of bringing into a third machine into the mix, not the BeagleBone and Black. And then the fourth step, which I'm kind of questionable on, is do I want to open a reverse shell on the BeagleBone to the home machine? That gives us two paths out of the network, doubles kind of the point of detection for the sysadmins of this network, but it would give you a little more control over the scripts that are running on the BeagleBone. So I'm not sure that's a great idea or not, but it seems like it, for the limited amount of traffic, it seems like it could be a good idea. So in summary, change the BeagleBone IP address, start at the keyboard, connect to the attacker machine, or connect to the victim machine, open a reverse shell on the victim machine that'll talk to home, basically, and then open another reverse shell on the BeagleBone that'll talk to home. So here's kind of a diagram of what that would look like. And then my plan basically is any discovery of files or anything like that would be shoveled from the victim machine to the BBB and Black for that local storage. So if you wanted to download password files or images or tax files or any of those things that would be pretty large chunks of data to throw over the internet, outbound over the firewall and everything, those will just stay local on the on the local network and not even really on the network because it's going over that USB cable. So throw any of that large traffic onto the BeagleBone, and then any of the command and control and discovery types of things would be done by the attacker through that reverse shell. And any command and control of the BeagleBone can be done by the attacker through the reverse shell, the second reverse shell we started up. So to me, the advantages of this type of attack are we circumvent that firewall to create the reverse shell. We're not worried about any of the network detection stuff when we first connect to that victim machine, which seems to be kind of the big problem. Obviously, you're getting a whole person in there, so maybe that's not quite so great, but we are circumventing any of the network traffic that somebody's going to see that would look suspicious. The second big piece is there's no large outbound traffic over the network. If we're trying to download a bunch of files, we can just push those all onto the BeagleBone Black. That's all stored over USB, as long as they're on that local machine. And so that should take away a big network footprint of an attack. And then the last thing is we can create persistence with that interpreter shell. So even though we're going to go back in and retrieve that BeagleBone Black, we're not going to necessarily turn off our attack. We can create persistence with that shell and keep an existence inside that network. And then we can launch any other types of networks that we've kind of learned throughout the semester. The disadvantages, obviously the huge one to me, is placement and retrieval of the BeagleBone. You're going to have to go into wherever you're attacking and plug that thing in and make it hidden enough so that people aren't going to immediately see it and say, wow, we just got some bad thing on our network. And then the third one is kind of a question that I'm not sure I can answer very well. This may or may not be a better plan than using a simple rubber ducky and a USB drive. Just attaching a USB drive into a machine, if they're not checking for that kind of thing, would probably be simpler than having the Kali box and so on. So while this is neat in theory, it's one device that you're plugging into their machine instead of two. Having a rubber ducky and a 128 gig USB drive can probably do pretty much the exact same thing as long as there's two exposed USB ports on the back of the machine. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was hoping to have a working demo, and I just didn't get everything working in time. So this has really been a great semester. I've learned from everybody's presentations throughout the year quite a bit, more than I really expected to in this class. So I look forward to your comments, critiques, and really I'd like to hear what other people or what you guys think are the pros and cons of this type of plan, if it will work or if it won't work, and what I can do differently. Have a great summer, everybody, and I'll hope to see you in future classes.